Hi, my name's Ian, and I'm here representing the Mighty Minds, which was a group we composed via Coursera forum. It was an international group. We came together in order to accomplish the mastery class, and I thought I would maybe just approach the presentation a little differently, as opposed to a PowerPoint presentation or a computer screen. I thought I would just show you guys myself. Um, Word documents are cool, but I thought this may be a little more personal. So we all just get started. I put together some rough slides, hand-drawn, so please excuse the illustrations or handwriting. I just, again, thought I would add another element to the presentation. So we shall get started. We were able to identify an organization called the Crochet Kids. The Crochet Kids are a nonprofit organization. They operate under a 501c3 status here in the United States, and they sell crochet beanies here in the US and around the world. These crochet beanies are made by women in Gulu, Uganda, and Lima, Peru. The sale of every beanie goes towards supporting a 3-year program that the women they employ in Lima and Gulu are entered into during the date of their employment. And the point of this program is to empower them to be personally and professionally powerful within their communities. So again, the Crochet Kids were our client, and they presented us, well actually, let me talk about the team. The team, we called ourselves the Mighty Minds. I know, but it's all right. So we called ourselves the Mighty Minds. It was composed of myself, Shafi Kamal from India, Gaurav from India, Nsambi from Jamaica, and Ferris from Australia. It was pretty cool. We were able to get along very well via email, Google Docs, and Skype. We had several conversations via Skype, at least once every other week, to talk about what we were going through. And what was interesting is just the international point of view that everyone brought to the table as it relates to solving for the problem the Crochet Kids presented us with. So that said, let's get to the problem. Here we have the problem. The Crochet Kids employ over 100 women in Gulu and Lima. In order to sustain this employment, as well as to expand the program to open up opportunities for other women in those areas and perhaps future sites around the world, the Crochet Kids need more sales. More sales equals greater empowerment for these women around the world. And so that's the problem. It's pretty intense. If we can come together as a group to come up with a solution that is going to drive sales for the Crochet Kids, ultimately resulting in not just the women that are part of the program now being able to go through the full 3-year program, get job training, understand how to save for the first time. For most of these women, it's the first time. Save for the first time in their entire lives for a future business that the Crochet Kids help these women develop while they're in this program to then implement after their 3-year program is over. So again, the problem is, how do we generate more sales to sustain the employment of the women that they're already employing, as well as expand the employment program to more women in these countries, as well as perhaps other sites around the world. So together, the team, the Mighty Mind, we came up with over 500 ideas, or concepts rather, to solve for that core problem. And as we narrowed the concepts, we came to these four these 4 solutions. The way that we reached these 4 solutions was through measuring them against our constraints, so pushing them through our constraints filter, reaching out to the Crochet Kids executive team to have them consider the ideas that we presented, all 500. That was a lot of ideas for them to consider, but they did it, and they were pretty happy actually, which was really cool. So as we pushed them through our constraints filter, as we talked to the Crochet Kids and their executive staff about the concepts, all 500 of them, we landed on these 4. I Am Empowered, the Khan Academy, an e-commerce optimization, and a consumer-led pricing concept. Once we had these 4 concepts, we went back to the Crochet Kids. We put together soft surveys that we then sent out to our friend networks, which created a sample size of greater than 100 people to consider the ideas against the constraints and to provide us with feedback so that we could get some outside perspective on what we were doing. And through that process, through our individual filtering as a team of the Mighty Minds via Skype, Google Doc, and email, the consultation of the Crochet Kids, their executive staff, and then also our collective community with a sample size of over 100 people, we were able to narrow down to the concept, I Am Empowered. The idea behind basically what I Am Empowered represents is a campaign that would happen this holiday season in order to drive sales for the Crochet Kids. Starting December 1, we would produce a unique beanie made by a woman in Gulu or Lima, and this beanie would be marketed here in the United States to benefit this single woman in Gulu or Lima, and then the woman would metaphorically represent all women around the world. The point would then be to focus all marketing efforts on that one day, and then every day thereafter in the month of December to support and empower women around the world. That leads us to our constraints. So when we looked at this idea, I Am Empowered, now that we actually got there after the 500 concepts, we needed to improve it. We needed to look at the weaknesses, look at its strengths, see where we could identify how to fill the gap in areas that existed. And so here we have our constraints. As we all know, individual, group, organizational, industry, societal, and technological. Just making sure that we can see it here. So when we were looking at this, in the context of the Crochet Kids, the individual constraints that we faced were perception, intellection, and expression. Perception was really a user data acquisition problem. Facebook, Twitter, there are plenty of great opportunities to gather user data, but the Crochet Kids currently don't have a very intelligent plan to do so. Intellection, there's obviously some internal constraints that exist within the Crochet Kids as it relates to previously accepted norms of strategic problem solving, so we have to break those. Expression, what we're looking at is basically how to message a campaign, how to differentiate it amongst other holiday campaigns that are out there in order to resonate with the consumer. Group constraints, one of the core emotional constraints was criticism. Within the group, because they're not really educated on how to critique, we have to critique ideas, that is. We have to kind of we have to change how that internal team is approaching the critique of ideas in order to have constructive criticism as opposed to negative criticism. A core cultural constraint is establishing norms within the group. To date, they currently have struggles with scheduling, delegation of work, and there are other factors such as establishment of trust, motivation, and commitment they're a relatively young team, so these are things that I'd say are pretty normal, but there are issues that we're going to work on. The core environmental constraint is just the inability to properly share insights. They are a global team. They have staff in Ngulu, Uganda, in Lima, Peru, and in Costa Mesa, California. So properly sharing insights across those just transnationally becomes challenging. Organizationally, we're looking at resources to be the main constraint for the Crochet Kids. They're a nonprofit organization, so resources are a major issue. Coordinating and controlling the strategy internationally in Uganda and in Peru definitely takes time, which is another issue that they face. As we look at the industry, the main industry constraint really is competing with other major, more established brands. The Crochet Kids are a new organization. They're also a nonprofit, so they have both their newness to market as well as cash or revenue, lack of revenue, I should say, as two main things that are working against them. Societally, what we see is pricing expectations. Their beanies currently go for $30 to $50. The expectation of a beanie here in the U.S. is anywhere from $15 to $20. So they're greatly exceeding what is the normal price point or normal expected price point for a beanie, and they're also not trying to market themselves as a boutique consumer brand where price points are typically higher and that consumer expects to pay more. So they're kind of fighting against that societal norm at the moment. And then technologically, the most critical technological constraint here is time. As I mentioned before, coordinating schedules internationally is a very difficult thing. And not only are they coordinating schedules internationally in terms of time, but there are cultural barriers to break through. There are several other challenges that exist there. Lastly, within ecology, within the technological constraint, we have their raw material, which is cotton. Currently, they do not have a vertical supply chain, which is something that we recommend for them in the future, which would allow them to grow cotton in Uganda or Lima, and not be affected by global prices when cotton is in low supply. They obviously are going to have to pay more for that, but if they were to produce their own cotton, they would not be affected by those demand issues. So there we have our major constraints. If I was to bring us back to the idea, I am empowered, and to talk a little bit about whether or not we were able to achieve success. The core problem with the campaign in terms of whether or not we were able to succeed is really time. Unfortunately, we were not able to, in the 8-week period, we did not have the appropriate amount of time to write up a proper campaign strategy for the Crochet Kids to then implement this holiday season. This had a lot to do with our own group constraints internally amongst the Mighty Minds, which was we are all working professionals, and drafting up a comprehensive campaign for the Crochet Kids proved to be extremely difficult. And so, as a result, did we succeed? Unfortunately, as a smiley face, or I should say frowning face, would suggest, we did not. That doesn't mean, though, that this idea, I am empowered, isn't actually going to be realized. I've spoken to the Crochet Kids, and I've asked them if this is something that they'd still be interested in executing. And given how pleased they were with the concept, and just how honored they were to have been represented by us, I guess, in this class, and then also to have been selected to be a part of this innovation process, they're very enthusiastic about implementing this, the I Am Empowered concept this holiday season in 2013. So success is actually to be determined, and I hope to keep everyone updated. If you'd like to continue to check back, the website for the Crochet Kids is www.crochetkids.org. In December of this year, and perhaps when you do go to their website, you may see the campaign I Am Empowered. Again, my name is Ian, representing the Mighty Minds, and I just thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. And also for those of you who I wasn't able to meet that critiqued our work throughout the process, we are extremely grateful. And I hope everyone is having a great afternoon, evening, or morning.